Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Welcome to Accelerated Health Radio and TV. I'm your host, Sarah Banta. I'm a health coach, natural supplement expert, and a busy mom of 3 teenagers. I believe your body does want to and is capable of rebuilding and healing itself regardless of what chronic disease you may have. I'm here for you to answer your questions, bring you innovative and cutting-edge technology and health solutions to empower you and your ability to reach your optimal state of health. Today, my guest will be talking about supplements and how they can help with energy, mental health, and anti-aging. And it seems like there are 2 camps in society. One is trying to reverse their chronic metabolic diseases that's affecting their mind and body. And the other is trying to anti-age or increase longevity with different diets, modalities, and biohacks. And the irony is that aging is a condition associated with higher risks of those metabolic diseases that most are trying to reverse. So in actuality, these 2 groups have the same ultimate goal: to reverse chronic disease, which will increase lifespan, and as our guest talks about, health span, and slow down the aging process. But what if I told you that you could take it a step further and reverse aging? By reversing your age or having your biological age go backwards while your chronological age ticks forward, then your risks of these metabolic diseases diminish. And not only will you live longer, but your quality of life will improve with age. So first, what are the basic markers of aging? Oxidative stress and inflammation. And that's why so many people look to antioxidants and anti-inflammatory supplements or diets to increase their longevity. But what are the top 2 things that cause oxidative stress and inflammation? Insulin resistance and toxicity, something that is a true pandemic right now. If you're new to following me, I specialize in helping you reverse chronic disease and ultimately reverse the aging process. You can find my articles, my cutting edge natural supplements and devices and protocols at acceleratedhealthproducts.com. I dive into an array of health conditions, their causes and symptoms, and how to address them naturally. And I've put together the most comprehensive cleanse that starts turning back the clock within 30 days. It comes with free group coaching and scalar enhanced supplements that make that transition easy. We have seen easy fat loss for those stubborn pounds, increased physical and mental energy, better bowel movements, decreased appetite, the ability to easily intermittent fast, clearer skin and whiter eyes, better sleep, less moodiness, and improved cellular permeability, which is the health of the cells and the cell's ability to get the toxins out and the nutrients in. At the end of the month, you flush out a whole bunch of liver and gallstones into the toilet, and you will also have a priceless, deeper understanding of how your body can heal itself. A lot of people do get themselves off of their medications with the guidance of their doctors, of course. The difference between me and any other group coaching is I provide the most cutting-edge scalar frequency enhanced supplements that work synergistically with each other, and your body doesn't experience those flu-like symptoms. You truly do feel great day one. Leave a comment below if you're interested, or check it out on the website, acceleratedhealthproducts.com. Today, we've got Shawn Wells back for a second time. He's a wealth of knowledge, and there's really no one on earth like him. He's formulated over 500 supplements, food, beverages, cosmeceuticals, and patented 10 novel ingredients, and is now known as the Ingredientologist, the science of ingredients. Formerly a chief clinical dietitian with over a decade of clinical experience, he has counseled thousands of people on natural health solutions such as keto, paleo, fasting, and supplements, all up my alley. He also has personally overcome various health conditions, including Epstein-Barr, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, depression, insomnia, obesity, and a pituitary tumor. Welcome, Shawn. How are you today?
I am amazing. Thank you for having me on, Sarah.
I'm so excited about today because, like I said last time, we could spend hours talking about everything. And I first want to circle back to berberine, something that we talked about in depth last time. And because of you, I have a client who was on berberine and he had lost 23 pounds. Kidneys were near stage 5 kidney disease. He has reversed his kidney disease. He had plateaued at 23 pounds. And I said, you need to increase your berberine. And we talked about it after our podcast with you. And within a week, he lost another 8 pounds. It was amazing. And it's so, it's truly the key to a lot of my clients' success. So thank you. And for anyone who missed our last episode, you can find it on all the podcast platforms under Accelerated Health Radio and TV. Today, I want to talk about your energy formula. Your book is fantastic and it goes in so many directions: mental, physical, spiritual health. And I love it because not only do you give you dive in deeply in each chapter on the subject, but at the end, you give those tips for the supplements and the down and dirty, what people need to do, look to, and things that can enhance their experience and increase their energy. So I really recommend everyone go out and get it. But let's quickly go through your energy formula because I want to talk about it in the physical sense and then also for mental health as well.
Sure. I'm blessed that it was listed on USA Today and Forbes list. It's been a bestseller on Amazon. This energy formula is an acronym for nutrition, exercise, routines, growth, and your tribe. There's 6. Oh, sorry. The first one was experiment. So experiment, nutrition, exercise, routines, growth, and your tribe. And so the book is broken out that way. And there's subsections in each with quizzes and chapter summaries, resource hacks that go into all the devices that you could use or apps and things like that. And then there's formulators corners in here that have all the supplement stacks. There's all kinds of infographics and diagrams in here. Everything's in full color, pictures. This book is loaded up. There's an Audible, the hardcover, the soft cover, and the ebook. So a lot of ways that you can get into it. If you go to energyformula.com, you can get the not only the book, but you'll also get a hidden chapter on natural movement, a cookbook, all kinds of extra free guides on like paleo, on keto, on fasting, like all kinds of cool stuff that you get for free.
I love it. And so with experiment, with the first E, what does that mean?
So it just dives into like the bio-individuality. I don't like, someone just making broad recommendations across the board. I mean, what matters is not only do you have a unique body and biology, but there's also like your will to do something and your interest in doing something. And that is a huge factor. Like, are you going to do it? Even if your genetics align with it, even if it's the best thing for you, are you going to do it? And then we also look at in that chapter a lot of the blood work and epigenetic testing, gut microbiome. So it's all about trying to understand metrics, using wearables, things like Oura Ring, BioStrap, Whoop Strap, looking at HRV and some of those measures, just trying to get as much data as you can, but also understanding what matters is what works for you and what you're going to stick with and make a lifestyle and not some quick fix that works for quote unquote everyone.
I love that. And that was something that I really started promoting over a year ago because the ketogenic diet, you can do keto totally wrong. And when it first came out, I was afraid of fat, right? I had been afraid of fat for all of my life because we were told fat was bad. But then all of a sudden I'm told I need to cut the carbs and eat a ton of fat. Well, it didn't feel right to me. And because of my genetic makeup, I really actually do have a hard time breaking down fat. So it was very intuitive to me. And everyone in my family has a different profile. So what I call it is the DNA diet, where you truly are eating to your DNA, or and where you are today. I mean, today I could be eating a lot differently than I could a year ago. My age is different, my hormones are different, my lifestyle's a little different. Can you get away with eating what you normally can when you're in a stress state versus when you're in a totally relaxed state? No. And I have flare-ups of E. coli if I'm totally stressed out and then I eat something that's out of line of what I'm supposed to eat versus when I'm totally relaxed and I'm in a good place and my gut's in a good, strong place, I can eat certain things that won't trigger the E. coli. So things like that. And I fully and completely agree with you. And I'd much rather have people eating whole foods than eating the processed keto foods, right? So that you've got marketing and the food system is so messed up and very confusing out there. And it's not just one simple formula for everybody.
Totally. And I'm actually down in Costa Rica. That's where I live now. And I'm living in a blue zone. And all I eat every day is whole food. I've actually, because I moved here, I thought I'd try not doing keto. I've been doing keto for 20 years, and it was very effective for me when I was highly metabolically dysfunctional. But I figured since I'm here, I'm going to eat like them as they live past 100 here. And I've just been eating fresh fruit and fish every day, pretty much every meal. And I feel as lean as ever. So it's been interesting. But a big part of this is, to your point, that there is no ultra processed food. I'm not getting glyphosate. I'm not getting depleted soil, fruits and vegetables. I'm not getting things that have a laundry list of chemicals in them. And I'm avoiding all that stuff. I'm eating truly whole food, but not just whole food, like organic, non-glyphosate, non-GMO, food that comes from loving, rich soil. So it's wonderful.
I have to make this observation, Shawn. You seem very relaxed and a lot more just in your own body right now versus sometimes that I've seen you in the past. And I know that mental health, obviously, which we're going to dive into, is related to your physical health, but it's also related to your environment. And I'm sure where you're at right now is just putting you more in a parasympathetic state in general, and maybe being around the people or not being bombarded with any GMOs in your diet, because even here in Southern California, I've got Whole Foods, I've got markets that have their organic vegetables, the grass-fed, grass-finished meats. That stuff is still getting sprayed on. It's still being exposed to GMOs. I saw chemtrails in my air today. We've got extra radiation. You probably don't have as much radiation in Costa Rica as we do up here. And then just the extra toxicity load that we're all being exposed to in general, that makes a difference to our physical and our mental health. And they are all interrelated.
Yeah, it's wonderful that you say that. I've heard that observation from a lot of people, and I feel that. I'm definitely more in a parasympathetic state here. I haven't watched TV in 3 months. I watch the sunrise and the sunset at the beach every single day. In Nosara, where I'm at 7 o'clock, there is zero light pollution. It's just dark. I'm in bed by 8 p.m. It's just a very different energy. And I actually went to speak at a biohacking conference in Austin about a month ago. Really high level speakers there. People like Mercola and Dave Asprey and people like that. And I was honored and excited to be at that event. But when I got there, I felt anxious. I felt overwhelmed. I walked in a restaurant shortly after getting off the plane, and it was in like this, it was called the Domain in Austin, where it's like one of these artificial cities with all the lights and the condos and the apartments and the Apple store and the Nordstroms and the, and all these lights are going and speakers on every lamppost. And I walk in the restaurant and there's like 4 TVs going, there's music going. I'm talking over people, and then they, I thought I've been eating fish, so I got ahi tuna. The ahi tuna came out looked like it was originally frozen, and then it was like dripping in like some oil, and I was just like, wow, like I was just so overwhelmed that people were trying to talk to me, multiple people, and I felt like I was really going into a chaotic state, and I was unhealthy. And it just took me a day or two to like adjust, because I've been in a very different energy here where I just talk one-on-one with people. I'm very connected in conversation. I'm not distracted. And it's just so different. And we don't even realize just how crazy and distracted and chaotic our lives really are. I walked into this Nordstrom's to meet someone the next day for lunch. And there's all these lights, the brightest super white lights and all these signs and TVs and things. And it's just, I realized like, we're just inundated with people essentially going, hey, 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 look at me, buy me, purchase me, you need me, you want me. Like, that's what our whole day is like. We're getting assaulted with this stuff. And to like disconnect and just be in nature and be in the quiet, like, has really changed my being.
Well, you talk about lifestyle diet. So all the things outside of food and supplements that we do, sleep and not being so busy, not being so distracted, multitasking. These phones are awful. I mean, I've got my kids and my kids are pretty darn good. I'm not complaining, but I have to tell them to put their phone down. I get 20 minutes with them at dinner because they're so busy doing their stuff. Put the phone down. And it's what everyone else is doing. So they don't think they're doing anything different. We grew up in an era when there weren't cell phones. So at least we're seeing that change. And okay, wait, there's something wrong here. But all that stimulus just makes your brain crazy, and it's scrambling. And then the EMFs from it are truly creating a frequency in your brain that your brain can't keep up with. And so it creates this underlying anxiety for people that are not anxious people. And right now, anxiety, depression, suicide are at all-time highs. We're all isolated, but then we're overstimulated. Right? With the news, with the Zooms, with the phones, with, all of these. Now I hear about meta universes where there's virtual lives. I mean, I haven't even touched that. I don't even actually want to know what's going on with that. You probably know a lot more than I do, but it's really scary where our world's going. But let's go back to like the basic fundamentals of how you get the mental energy back. So I know, for instance, you talk a lot about depression and just and I want to go through the basic fundamentals of what someone can do if they're suffering from depression or mental illness, with diet, with exercise, with supplements. I know BDNF is directly correlated to depression. So let's talk about exercise. As obviously we do it for our physical health, but what is it doing for our mental health?
Yeah, to your point, we've become dopamine addicts, and that's what like all the likes are and the scrolling is, and seeing who's responded to us, and we're checking our WhatsApp or our iMessages or our DMs or the likes and all of that stuff. It revolves around the dopamine reward center. And we become addicted to it, and we're checking it. And even when there's no responses, we're checking it and checking it and checking it. And so we become addicts. And it's important to have dopamine for focus, for confidence, for productivity, but in a more balanced kind of extended way versus like these peaks and valleys and peaks and valleys and peaks and valleys. So exercise is amazing to do that, moving your body. Another important aspect of exercise that we're seeing when it comes to anti-aging, since you brought that up, is this idea of, it's called exercise snacks, where about 5 minutes every hour, you move your body, you do air squats or planks or jumping jacks or, crawl out in the yard or whatever it is. And they've found that that's actually more effective for longevity than going to the gym for an hour a day. Now, going to the gym for an hour a day is great. And we know that resistance training is great and maintaining skeletal muscle mass is great. But if we are sedentary for 23 hours a day on the couch, in the office chair, in the car, in bed, and our body is not moving lymph and blood and circulating and staying dynamic as it should. It's not even just lymph and blood and some of these fluids. It's also about like how your body remodels itself to hold it in a certain state. Like, so if you're always in a sitting position or a laying down position, your body is going to adjust and remodel the muscle, the fascia, the bone, the nerves around trying to hold you in the state that it thinks that you're supposed to be in. And so that's why like we feel like, oh gosh, I'm so tight, because like you're holding this position that's now your default position. Right. So it's really healthy for your body to be moved a little bit all the time throughout the day. And that's this idea of exercise snacks. So it's not hard to do. And I'm not saying you need to do a whole lot. So that's really important. I think another aspect that again is really simple, that has great data, it's called a postprandial stroll. So that means like an after meal walk. And they've shown that just a 10-minute walk after a meal can have a dramatic impact on your blood sugar, blood glucose. And that will have a dramatic impact on your health, your metabolic health. So just moving your body for 10 minutes after your meal, really profound effect on your health and longevity. So some of the things that I'm suggesting with exercise don't have to be, CrossFit and, parkour and, anything extreme. I'm just talking about moving your body throughout the day.
I know that I feel a ton better when I get up and I just go for a walk with my dogs. And not only does it do what you're talking about, but it also lowers your cortisol levels and your stress and just puts you in a state of gratitude, which is helpful with your mental health in general as well. And especially being out in the sun, if the sun's out. And then you're right, doing something after dinner. And if you can't go for a walk, maybe do some squats after your dinner, or just do a little movement. And that helps with that insulin resistance that I talked about in the beginning, which once again helps with anti-aging. And that BDNF, it helps with that BDNF, and it alleviates depression and stress and puts you into that parasympathetic mode that's so important. I see so many women, and I really wanted to touch on women for a moment, that do chronic cardio because they hit their 40s and the diet and exercise regime that they've been doing for 20 years isn't working anymore. The pounds start coming on, especially during the last 2 years. But they're not overeating. They're eating clean, right? They might even be doing a hot yoga section and then a 4-mile run, where they're over exercising. And then you've got the change in the hormones and the body saying, this doesn't work for me. And then you get depressed and frustrated and that sort of thing. So can you talk about women and what your guidelines would be, or what you promote for their overall health, mentally, physically, and their exercise regime?
It's a great point. I think that there was a slogan that strong is the new skinny, essentially. Like, if we're to look at one of the top predictors of longevity, it's maintenance of what's called skeletal muscle mass, like just mean muscle on your bones. Like, so that's really a potent predictor of how we're going to age, because typically there's a phenomenon called sarcopenic obesity. And this means that even if your weight is staying the same, you're trading off tissue type, meaning that as you age, we tend to get more fat and lose more muscle mass. And so the more we can do to maintain lean body mass or gain strength and muscle mass, the better we are going to age. The number one predictor that I know of is actually grip strength that doctors and researchers use. And this is a predictor of just how much strength you have in your hands, which means how well you can use your body, how much muscle you have, like how well you can neurologically recruit or activate that muscle. So all of that is important. And that's something to be mindful of. And I think most women think that, muscle is unattractive, or they can just lose weight and get the body they want by doing aerobics or cardio. But another aspect of what's called low intensity, steady state cardio, or slow go cardio in research, is it's really not that effective. What you're doing is, again, you're not doing resistance training, so you're not maintaining or increasing muscle mass or strength. And you're really not pushing your body to adapt and metabolically grow stronger. This is just moving your body. Now, as we talked about before, moving your body isn't a bad thing. It can have a great effect as we age. It can be great for your mental health. But as far as having a dramatic impact on longevity and body composition, it's not going to. So high intensity interval training, which is called HIIT, is the acronym, is far more effective than low intensity steady state cardio. So why is that? Like, because cardio, you're maybe at like 40 or 50% of your maximum, and you're maintaining it for a long period of time. So again, you're burning calories, you're moving your body. That's great. It's better than nothing. Absolutely. But it's not the same as HIIT when it comes to your training at 80 or 90 or 100% of your capacity. And this is where adaptation takes place. This is where your body says, whoa. Like, we need to store more glycogen. We need like a greater VO2 max, as far as like lung capacity. We need greater buffering systems so they don't fatigue as fast. We need more muscle mass and strength. We need to recruit that muscle in a better way. The brain needs more neuroplasticity to deal with this exercise. We need, what's called proprioception, which is like the awareness of your body moving through space through your nervous system. Like, all of this is happening through intense exercise. When you're training at this low intensity steady state, none of that is really happening. So that's why, like, literally with HIIT, you can accomplish more in 5 minutes than you can with an hour of cardio.
Well, and I notice when I do HIIT training in the morning, my brain is on fire. I'm ready to go, versus if I go for a long rowing machine workout or a run, I'm much more mentally acute with my day all day. And then I put in the snacks of the walks or the squats throughout the day as well. So with with that, the other things I wanted to just the basic fundamentals of how to improve mental health, because then we're going to get into the fun stuff. Sleep and magnesium. And these are two things that are so basic. And I feel like everyone is lacking in both worlds of sleep and magnesium. Even me, I know that I'm low on magnesium. I take a magnesium supplement, but at the same time, you know what, we need so much magnesium and the body runs through it. Can you talk about, let's first talk about magnesium and the importance of it and what functions it does in the body, and then also how it relates to your mental health.
Well, you have close to 300 chemical reactions that are happening in your body that are dependent on magnesium as a cofactor. And so there's so many things, like obviously, like you mentioned, like bowel health, but like muscle contraction, brain health, like a number of functions with cellular biology, like down, like, so it's like all the way like up to muscle, but all the way down to cells. Like, I mean, there's so much going on with magnesium, with depression, with immune health. And so 75% of the population is deficient in magnesium. And it might seem crazy why we're so deficient in magnesium when we're eating more than enough calories. But going back to what we were talking about earlier, our soil is depleted so much of these minerals that it doesn't have enough. And then two, we're not eating things like bone and those other aspects of the animals anymore, like the nose to tail kind of eating. But we're not getting that kind of stuff anymore. So we're just eating the muscle essentially of an animal if we're eating that. And if we're eating vegetables, we're not getting the magnesium so much there anymore either. So about 75% of people are deficient. Same with vitamin D, by the way. So both of those are pretty critical. I think people aren't getting enough sun or getting enough vitamin D in their diet. Yeah. And that's another one that's absolutely critical to your health. And then as far as sleep, that's another number that's really like at an all-time pandemic level of people not getting enough sleep. They've shown that just 6.5 hours in some studies, it's between those two numbers or less, makes us acutely insulin resistant. Mm-hmm. And what happens over time is that acute insulin resistance becomes chronic insulin resistance when we're chronically not sleeping well. And, that puts us at 3 times higher heart attack rate and 5 times higher diabetes, type 2 diabetes rate when we're chronically undersleeping. And your brain cells, your neurons are actually firing slower. That's that brain fog that you're feeling. They're firing slower, and they're in a state of insufficient cellular energy. And so they're not getting enough energy. And that's why you feel like you need to reach for the caffeine. You need to have sugar, like from a Red Bull or Monster or donut or all this crap that people eat in the morning. It's from not getting enough sleep and these brain cells not working as well as they should. So it's a huge problem to not get enough sleep. And of course, when we're in this metabolic dysfunction and you add to it stress and you add to it the toxins like you're talking about and the EMF and all of these other things going on, we're in a recipe for faster biological than chronological aging. We're in a recipe for disease. So that's what we're seeing, despite us supposedly having access to more food, us having access to more healthcare. We're seeing disease at an all-time high, obesity at an all-time high, biological aging more rapidly because of all these things, because we're not sleeping as well. We're not eating as quality as we should, or hydrating as well as we should, getting the micronutrients like we should.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone can tell when they don't sleep well that their day is not going to go as well. We're going to take a short commercial break, and then we're going to jump into plant medicine and mental health, and we will be right back. Welcome back to Accelerated Health Radio and TV. I'm your host, Sarah Bantha, the owner of Accelerated Health Products. And today we have Shawn Wells on. Shawn, basics for helping mental health, diet, clean eating, low sugar, no processed foods. Make sure you're sleeping. Make sure you're getting enough magnesium. Make sure you've got healthy gut health. Get rid of your leaky gut. We've got all of these things. And some people will sit there and say, okay, now what? I need more. I'm not in a state where I've gotten rid of my depression, my suicidal thoughts, my anxiety. I've had a very traumatic childhood experience I can't get over. What have you seen and what have you tried and what conclusions have you gotten?
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion, and I've been leading the charge on this around plant medicine. And I'll say plant medicine, but also mean things like MDMA, ketamine, as well as psilocybin. And there's ingredients out there like ayahuasca that gets discussed. But what we're seeing right now is there's a lot of research, in particular, on psilocybin with Johns Hopkins, with the MAPS organization doing research on MDMA. There's considerable research in clinical psychiatry around ketamine, and there's a number of clinics around the country and world now. And so things are changing around these compounds and what is possible with psychedelics and mental health. And while in the 70s, these were thought of as recreational drugs to expand consciousness or to escape to other worlds or what have you, and were potentially abused back then. Now in a facilitated environment, be it clinical or in the right facilitator's hands, we're seeing incredible transformation possible when dosed the right way, in the right set, meaning mindset, and the right setting, meaning the environment or the container that's created safely, that people are really moving through trauma in a very significant way. Most of this research with MDMA, psilocybin, we're seeing that in 3 to 6 sessions that are guided sessions with psychotherapy assisted, they call it, that people are resolving lifelong trauma, PTSD, in these sessions instead of being on SSRIs and living with depression and anxiety for their entire life. And so for people like our veterans or rape survivors, abuse survivors, all of these things, like this is profound. And you're seeing the destigmatization, the decriminalization of these compounds, and we're seeing just mounting research. There's studies that show that single use of any psychedelic has been associated with 50% lower rates of anxiety and depression. Single use of psychedelics has been associated with 33% lower rates of type 2 diabetes and heart disease. So we know that, like the Dr. Joe Dispenza data, that the body holds the score, right? That your body, not only are you living with trauma mentally and spiritually, but it's in your body physiologically. You hold trauma in your muscles, in your organs. And this trauma is a lifelong experience, potentially, if you don't deal with it and move through it. And your default mode network, which is essentially your ego, has an impact on your physiologic body. And so this is what your ego will protect you, but your ego will also prevent you. Mm-hmm. And so when you get into these psychedelic states, you have what's called a default mode network being turned off. Ego is suppressed, and you can align with your truth. And instead of creating stories, and often we're creating very negative stories, we get ourselves in these in these loops and these boxes, telling ourselves very untrue negative stories, we can get out of those loops and we can get to the truth, see that trauma, deal with that trauma, move through that trauma. And it's very profound what's happening. And for me, it changed my life. I believe that had I not discovered plant medicine and done it in a very safe way with a nurse that has 20 years experience in trauma medicine in New York City, and a really brilliantly trained shaman and psychotherapist, that I think I would have killed myself. I was going 80 hours a week to 100 hours a week. I was traveling 300 plus days a year. I was looking for love through external validation and not loving myself, not believing in myself. I was very close to, I think, just an idea of fatalism, of like, just, I wasn't sure where it was all leading, but it wasn't going to a good place. Like I was just going as fast as I could, heads down and grinding. And I think a lot of people are stuck in these places and are in these perpetual loops, telling themselves these very negative stories. And of course, I was dealing with a lot of physiologic dysfunction, a lot of immune system issues because of the crushing weight of depression and anxiety. Despite me being a brilliant biohacker, and I can admit this now, all of the biohacking was a way to keep myself alive. It was a way that I could keep pushing my body more and more and more and demanding more of it, instead of like being allowed to get into, like we talked about, those parasympathetic nervous system states. I was never there. I was always in sympathetic or ultra sympathetic. I was always just pushing and grinding and demanding more. And that's not a path to healing on any level.
It really exemplifies the statement, we're all in our own way, right? Our ego is what is the barrier for us moving forward. So do you recommend this for anybody, even if they have not, and I don't know anybody who hasn't had some sort of trauma in their life, but if someone says, well, I'm kind of doing okay, I don't have any big childhood traumas in my lifetime, is this something that's appropriate for me?
I have been in these environments where I've seen people that are in a very great place use them in lighter doses, in the right setting, in a loving, supportive setting, to get expansive mind states, to get into greater consciousness, to be in a more loving state, feel more connected to humanity and nature, feel more connected to God, universe, source, whatever you want to call it. So it's certainly possible. It's one of those things that you have to kind of look within yourself on. But I would say that that's not where most people are at. And that would be beautiful if that's where we were at as humanity, where we were, really looking to expand consciousness and find deeper ways to love each other. But at the moment, there is a pandemic, there is a crisis globally of depression, of anxiety. And I think, to what you were talking about before, the level of like multitasking, distraction, there's like a degree of us being like wired into the matrix, not to get too down the rabbit hole here, but there is a desire, like I was saying, with all the hey, like all these things and different companies demanding our attention, wanting us to buy these things, wanting us to feel this way, wanting us to give them our money or give us our control, essentially yielding our sovereignty to them and no longer having freedom. Like that's a thing that's happening, and we're feeling depressed because of it. We're feeling depressed because We don't have love within ourselves. We feel like we feel disconnected from people, and we feel like I was feeling that I needed to earn love from other people, and then I would somehow love myself, or I needed to, buy things to fill that hole. And that's just not the truth. It's not reality. And so we're essentially being lied to every day and thinking that health lies outside of ourselves. And I love how you said that, at the top of the show, and I was watching the intro, is that you talked about that we have the ability to heal ourselves. Healthy is like heal thyself, so that's where sovereignty is. No one is saving us. We are healing ourselves. That's where our freedom is, that our body has the capacity to heal itself.
I love this. And this is something that we could definitely go on and on. And Shawn, maybe you need to come back again and really dive into it. But real quick before we go, is there any side effects that people should know about? I mean, obviously there's major
Yes.
side effects to the antidepressants. That is the alternative. But what would be some side effects if obviously you want to make sure you're with the right practitioner under the right conditions? That is imperative.
Right.
But yeah, are there any side effects?
Well, yeah, and I'm glad you brought this up. There's a lot of disclaimers here. I mean, right now, these things aren't necessarily legal. You have to look at legality, potentially doing it through a clinic or going to a place where it is legal. You want to certainly be with the right facilitators or the right doctors that have a lot of experience, that have a lot of understanding, that don't try and take your sovereignty away, that make you feel safe, that allow you to lean in at much lower doses. People that are really experienced in this realm is what you're going to want. And there's certainly risks when you are in this state of being quote unquote cracked open. You can potentially be reprogrammed in a negative way. That's why it's very important that you are with the right people that are guiding you instead of controlling you or saving you, or essentially creating new loops and new programs that don't serve you. So, you're in a very what's called neuroplastic state, which is amazing because you can essentially rewrite your code. So you want to be with the right people, or else, you can essentially create more trauma. So it's very important to choose the right people. But we're seeing incredible data coming out from, again, like Johns Hopkins and really valid medical and scientific sources.
Awesome. Well, Shawn, where can people find your book, The Energy Formula?
Energyformula.com. And I have a lot of cool guides and information and newsletters, all of which is free at shawnwells.com, SHAWN. And you can follow me on Instagram at SHAWNWELLS at Shawn Wells. I have great infographics and awesome information there. I just seek to educate and help, and I answer all my DMs. So anything you need, I'm here to help.
You truly are amazing, and you're one of those human beings that is out there for the betterment of mankind. So thank you for all you do, and I don't think will be our last interview. So thanks again, Shawn, and thank you everyone else for joining us today. If I can help you, you can email me directly through the website, acceleratedhealthproducts.com. Please share this episode and subscribe to the channel. You can use coupon W4HC20 for 20% off site-wide. As you support Accelerated Health Products, I'm able to bring you this show and all of the amazing guests. Have a great week, and we'll see you next Tuesday.